Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Ben Barnes and this is the news. It's not the news. This is Facebook. It's Facebook Live, I'm here to talk about Westworld, which is HBO's show in which I play the character of Logan. And if you haven't seen all the way up to the last episode, which aired on Sunday, which was episode 9, go away, because this is not for you, because people are going to be asking questions about stuff all the way up to then, and it will completely ruin it for you, and that will make you sad and me sad, and you'll make so many people sad. So we're just going to chat for a little bit, and I'm going to try and answer some of your questions. I know there's lots of theories buzzing around, and lots of people shouting nasty things at me in the streets of New York City. Because I'm not behaving very well on the show, and so I'm going to try and talk to you about some of that stuff. And I've got a screen over here which is going to come up with your questions, and I'm going to try and read them and answer them, because there's no smoke and mirrors here. I just want to tell you what's going on. I've got coffee and water and various things I can play with here. I feel like I've got my own chat show. Except there's no audience and no band, and I've got no content. All right, so the first question is from, is this what I do now? Yeah. The first question is from, someone does that. The first question is from Aaliyah P, and she says, how different are you from Logan? If there was a Westworld, would you go there and do the same things Logan's done in the show? How different? Logan was actually based entirely on me in the first place. They came to me before they wrote the show and said, we'd love to base... No, it's not at all. Logan and I are very different. I think empathy would probably be one of my defining characteristics. If I had to sort of define myself in a few words, I think empathy would probably be one of the things that was quite near the top of the list in terms of, how I relate to other people. And I don't think that's very high up on the list for Logan. I think Logan is motivated by family, which is probably something that I do relate to, but by money and power and getting the upper hand and real sort of ego. He's real. He's sort of propelled forward by his ego, and I think that in a way Logan is maybe one of the only honest characters in the show, because he doesn't ever lie. He just sort of calls it how he sees it, and that's actually something that I've tried to do more in my life as I've got older, but just be a bit more straight up. Which I do admire, and I think when you're playing a character like that, you have to find things that you can kind of attach yourself to in order to portray him in a realistic way. But that's a very serious answer to your probably quite light-hearted question. All right, moving on. James H. There's a lot of people out there with surnames with just one letter. James H. Of the characters you play opposite Dolores, Will, anyone else, which one do you think brings out the worst in your character or the best in you as an actor? Evan Rachel Wood, who plays Dolores, is obviously brilliant. There's no getting around it. She's basically doing the acting Olympics. She's sitting in front of Sir Anthony Hopkins, and Jeffrey Wright. Oh my God, Jeffrey Wright. And she's being asked to switch on and off and on and off, and sad, happy, go, angry, and she would do extraordinary things. So that was amazing to watch. But my scene partner for the entire series was Jimmy Simpson, who plays William, and he's also an extraordinary actor, and I learned a lot watching him and playing opposite him. And it really is, playing is a good word, because you try different things on different takes, and you see how this relationship really functions, and we were kind of investigating this relationship, and we would get the scripts almost concurrently with filming, so together we were trying to work out what their relationship was and what was going on. We were held in suspense as much as you guys have been watching it. So I have to say thank you to Jimmy publicly in this forum on my chat show. I want to say Thanks, Jimmy. You make me happy. Wasn't that sincere and nice? Okay, next question. Vas. From Vas. What was the most challenging thing you had to do shooting Westworld? Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. The hardest thing was the first day, because I was actually in England when I got this job, and I had to fly the same day that I got the job and start shooting only a few days later. And I managed to essentially break my foot on the way, running down the stairs to get in the taxi to go to the airport. And I never told anyone because I just tried to hide it, because I was too afraid that I would lose the job. So in my very first day of filming, which was the next day, you can see I'm sort of hobbling along with this kind of cowboyish limp, which I then tried to maintain for the next year, just so that I could pretend it was a character choice. But really, I had a very purple foot. I even had a medical. You have to when you get a job in this business, you have to do a medical exam, and you sort of have to pass this physical test. But I refused to stand up during mine. I just sort of pretended I was. It's just not very polite, and I was like, "Come in, sit down here with me where I can't stand up from." So walking was the hardest part of shooting this for me. Probably shouldn't have told you any of that. Right. Next question, Kate L. Some viewers see your character as the villain. Do you think there really is a villain? I've dribbled everywhere. Do you think this really is a villain in the conventional sense in this show? Well, villain is a good word. I think there's lots of antagonists, and I think that makes for something much more interesting, because you have the protagonists in terms of Dolores, and I think it could even be argued that Maeve is a protagonist. I mean, everyone is the protagonist of their own story, really, and I think that's part of what this show is about. Is that it's a bit like a video game. So, as far as I'm concerned, Logan is the hero of this game. I've gone to Westworld to play my version of this game, and I'm going to win, and it's as simple as that. And I think there are other characters who aren't quite sure why they're there, and obviously I have ended up becoming a bit of an antagonist to Jimmy's character William, and obviously the unbelievably brilliant and terrifying Ed Harris has become a bit of an antagonist for almost everybody else, and Anthony Hopkins' character Dr. Ford has become a bit of an antagonist for Bernard / Arnold. I told you shouldn't be watching if you haven't watched episode 9. So yeah, I think there's protagonists and antagonists rather than villains necessarily, because I think actually my character sums it up more succinctly than any other. There are no heroes or villains. It's just a big game. I'm paraphrasing, but I say something ruder in the show, but I don't know if I can say it here. So it's just a game, and I think that's part of the puzzle which everyone's trying to look at. It was a great question. Lauren D, hi. What were your thoughts when you read the script for episode 9 and read the shift in the dynamic for the relationship between Logan and William? How fun was that to shoot? P.S. You and Jimmy are so great. Oh, thank you. Well, I was somewhat relieved when I read episode 9, because I thought I was for it. I mean, I thought I've been so badly, but halfway through episode 9, I thought nobody is allowed to behave this badly and get away with it. And there hasn't really been, we'd seen only a few episodes ago how a human character, it's possible for them to bite the bullet. So I knew that all the rules were out the window. I knew that human characters could end up 6 feet under. So I thought probably I was the next. So when I read episode 9, I was actually thrilled, and there was some great dialogue for me as well in episode 9. I really enjoyed those really fun scenes where I'm unashamedly overacting with a chicken wing with Jimmy and Evan, and just enjoying myself immensely. So it is fun to play the naughty bad guy. That's I can attest to that. It's true. All right, Rachel W. Logan seems to always be in the middle of a fight. Did you ever get accidentally hurt while filming Westworld? Well, you've already heard that I managed to just to hurt myself before I even got there. Actually, I think I got off pretty lightly on this one. In most films or shows I've ever been in, I usually play the character who is down on their luck or clumsy, and I'm being asked to throw myself on the ground an awful lot. And I got off pretty lightly on this one. I think the other characters were sort of being mown down left, right and centre, and tied up to things and sitting in cold rooms with no clothes on, and I basically got to saunter around misbehaving and really only had 2 costumes the entire series. So for me it was I managed to get off pretty lightly on the injury front compared to normal. Jason, how difficult is it for a British guy to do an American accent? Does it interfere with your performance at times? It's well, I've been doing American accents. I don't think I've played a Brit in about 5 years or something, which was it's completely incomprehensible to me. I thought that when I got into acting that I would be doing sort of mostly period dramas and Hugh Grant-esque roles, and I've been extraordinarily lucky in that people have trusted me with playing sort of quite almost quite stereotypically American roles in terms of Americana, street buskers, or Samuel Adams, one of the founding fathers of the country, or even Logan to some extent. So I love doing accents, and I've always done them. My first ever film I ever did, I played a Russian, and one of the biggest films that a franchise that I was involved with, the Narnia series, I started off using a Spanish-esque Mediterranean accent, and I've done lots of different accents, and I find it a very useful linchpin for a character. I think for some actors they begin with the way that the character moves or walks or carries themselves, or what kind of music they listen to, perhaps, or it could be a million things. But for me, how they sound has always been a good jumping off point, because I very rarely play characters that sound like myself, and if I do, I think the job of starting your research of how you want the character to come across is harder for me, because he just sounds like me. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Fran Morgan, hi. Who were your inspirations for the character of Logan? He seems like a more foul-mouthed version of a Lord Henry Wotton from Dorian Gray. Out to push all the corruption buttons. I like that phrase, corruption buttons. Yes, he's definitely more of a Lord Henry than a Dorian. I would say. Who are my inspirations? I think honestly, Jonah Nolan and Lisa Joy, who were the extraordinary writers and creators and showrunners of this show, who I believe are doing their own Facebook Live at some point next week, which will be much more informative and interesting than this one, because they are brilliant, genius people. They really, they were so wonderfully helpful in the creation of this character, and would really take so much time to explain it to me in such different ways. Jonah would talk to me about how this character was the id to William's super ego, and he would get very detailed about where this character is from. He's from kind of very old American money, and it would just kind of talk me through how the character works. And then Lisa would give me the sort of more human element of, he thinks this is Grand Theft Auto, and he's there to wreak havoc, and this is this is the motivation for this particular scene, and you're getting an adrenaline rush off this, and you love it, and so I would have both those angels on my shoulders, and then I sort of created the devil out of those. But I didn't particularly feel like there was any particular person that was inspiring the character necessarily. I was just trying to have something fresh. Obviously, I've watched the original film of Westworld, and James Brolin plays the character out of the two of the guests who go to Westworld, Richard Benjamin and James Brolin, that play those characters. And the James Brolin is a much cooler version of this character. He's more knowing. He's kinder than Logan is, I think, certainly. But just he was a kind of a template of part of who Logan is. But obviously, with the 10 episodes, we had a bit more time to kind of explore and make him a little bit more poisonous in our version, I think. Okay, the next question. Karina P. If you had an opportunity to visit the Westworld in real life, how would you act? Would you be a hero, a cowboy, or a villain? There's a lot of fun tests you can do online, and you can do these quizzes and find out which character out of the Westworld cast you could be. And I keep trying to get myself, and I never have. I always get Maeve. I don't know what exactly that says about me. But you can also do ones where you would find out what kind of character you would be, whether you would be a bounty hunter, or whether you would be a lawman, or whether you would be I forget what any of the other options are of what you can be. But I got an outlaw, which Lisa Joy, our creator, thought was really cool. She got very excited. She got very excited about everyone's in the cast answers about what you would be if you were in Westworld, and I was she was like. And she said, no one else has got outlaw. And then she rolled her eyes and went, of course you have. Which made me feel quite special. So you should take that test and find out. But I think, I think if I think too hard about it, the question is quite terrifying. Because the repercussions of having this kind of AI in our world is as is being evidenced in the show, absolutely destructive and terrifying. But I think as a playground of something that, if it only existed for a moment, I think Outlaw and Havoc and is probably the only way to go. Because if you're going to a place where rules don't apply, I don't think you should play by the rules. But it's not real for now, so I can answer it in that fun way. I think this is Jürgen V, and he's asking, do you really only get to read the script episode by episode? Don't you get any more info or far sites? No, we really did read it week by week, and I think the shortest. I think at one point we were reading scripts only about 2 days before shooting them. And sometimes we would get them 2 or 3 weeks before, which was a lot more settling. But it was fascinating. I think in the Victorian era, authors like Dickens would serialise their novels, and you could read them chapter by chapter in the newspaper, and so it felt a little bit like that. But we weren't able to binge, see, at this point, some of you, I'm sure, will have collated as many episodes as you can, and maybe on a Sunday done 3 or 4 episodes. I certainly know some of my friends who've done that, and then they send me texts with lots of exclamation marks in them. I can't believe this, or that, or you. And so I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. But what was the question? So we really did have this serialized experience of trying to work out what was going on, and in the same way that a lot of you are hypothesizing about the theories of whether characters are doubling up, or whether there are separate timelines, or what certain characters' history or future might be, we were doing exactly the same thing and coming up with some of the exact same theories as a lot of you, and a lot of them were completely wrong, and some of them were absolutely right. And I think that is part of the joy of the show. Although I think sometimes if you try too hard to theorize and work out what's going on, instead of just enjoying the show and digesting it, you can ruin some of the surprises, because you're more excited about being right than you are about being surprised or feeling the emotions that some of these reveals are supposed to incite, I think. So stop thinking too hard and just enjoy the finale for what it is, and let it wash over you like a huge, terrifying wave. Okay, we've got time for about 3 more questions, and the first of which is from Barry, and he says, if you could go to another world, like the original movie, he's put that in brackets. If you could go to another world, what would it be and why? That's a really good question. Because Cowboys is only one. I mean, I know in the original movie, I think there was Roman world, medieval world, and Roman world, or future world. Future world was the sequel. Medieval world and Roman world, I think. And so these universes are limitless, really. I do like the idea of the sort of speakeasy 20s New York world. You could have maybe sort of gangsters and grown-up Bugsy Malone. You could have gangsters and moles and fabulous music and jazz and secret drinking underground. I think that would be quite a fun world, but I'm just making that up off the top of my head. I'm sure there are much better answers, and you should tell us what they are, because it's hard having your own chat show, because you've got to think of things on the spot, and there's no one here to react. So I'm starting to feel very self-conscious. Okay, Caleb Stewart. Which scene with your character are you most proud of? Oh, that's a really good question. I think there are certain sort of tentpole scenes when you have an ensemble cast like this, you're sort of looking for those moments which will really help define your character. And I think the first of those for me was probably in episode 2, where I stab that host in the hand while I'm talking to William to sort of make a point about the fact that they're not real, and their pain is not real, and he should let loose and feel free to break the rules and break those and sort of push those boundaries. I think that was the first one. And then in episode 5, in the much discussed pariah orgy scenes, I sort of lay down the truth to Logan, or my truth, and I recall incidents from the sort of the real world, and I think that was something that I really looked forward to as a challenge, about going, I know this all feels very real, but it's not. Remember what the real world is. And he sort of reveals a little bit of a darker side of his character from the real world, which was a great challenging scene, particularly because I was surrounded by about 500 naked people painted gold in various curious positions. So that was quite distracting. And then most of episode 9, I really enjoyed. Somebody asked earlier what my reaction was when I read the script to episode 9, and I just found it thrilling because it was Logan's on top for about 10 minutes, and and it's good to be the king, or the hand of the king. I noticed a lot of people noticed that the pendant that I steal from one of them Confederados looks a little bit like the Hand of the King badge, which I thought at the time, and I thought, I bet somebody on the internet will notice that this looks a bit like the Hand of the King. It wasn't intentional in any way, but I think it's really fun, and I have noticed a few people on the internet sort of checking that, and so that's really fun, and I feel vindicated that I was right, that somebody would say that, and now I'm doing that exact thing that I said don't do, which was to just try to be right, but I am right. So all right, sadly this is to be the last question. It's from Charlie, and he says, if you could be in any other HBO show, which one would it be? Oh, that's such a good question. I watch too much television, and I mean, Game of Thrones is extraordinary, and I think any actor should want to be should want to feature in that universe. And it's full of just extraordinary storylines and extraordinary acting. But there's lots. There are lots, and I can't think of any of them at this moment. What other HBO shows are there? Come on, help me out. Girls is great. I think I would pretty much, yeah, I would pretty much any HBO show you would sign up to completely blind, because they know how to make TV that you want to watch. The Night Of I just watched was completely extraordinary. Yes, but it's a great question with not a very specific answer, because the answer is any of them, really. I just think that's the way to make television. You know, be bold, be brave, and hope that, you know, you have that magic dust where people are keen to come in the next week and want to talk about it. You know, when they get to work, and that's, you know, really the point of all this anyway, is to spark discussion and excite people. So I'm really glad that Westworld is doing that. It's probably the first time in my career that I've been involved with something that is doing that, and it's thrilling for people to kind of stop you in the street and tell you that they're enjoying it, and sort of pose their theories. And it was great to have all your questions today. Thanks so much for coming and being my first ever chat show host audience. And the finale of Westworld is this Sunday at 9 o'clock on HBO. And I think it's a 90-minute. I think it's a 90-minute episode. And if you need to catch up, which I know you don't, because you promised not to watch this unless you were up to date, but if you want to watch them all again before the finale, you can go on HBO Go, HBO Now, and they're going to air all of the episodes on Sunday. I'm not even reading this; it's all from memory. All air on Sunday, December the 4th at 12 p.m. on HBO 2, and you can stream them on all those places I just said. So thanks very much. I'll chat to you soon. I don't know if there's a goodbye one. No, just angry, sad. Oh, I'm sad that it's over. So we'll do that. All right. Bye.